What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Simple Songwriting. I am your host, Saint Aria, and today this one is hot off the presses. We're talking about the first track and also the fourth single from MGK's Lost Americana, Outlaw Overture. So yeah, he released a music video for this last night as well. Pretty cool music video. And yeah, before I really like to, I don't like to spend too much time on these intros because I really love to just get into the song and start talking about it. But I do want to say, like, right off the bat, my initial thoughts, this is probably the best single for this album that he's put out. I really actually like this song a lot. I think it's an above average song. There's a clear journey here and there was a lot of purpose to many of the musical decisions. I don't like everything. I think there's a few spots that are a little iffy, but overall it's a really cool song. I think it's again the best single for this album so far. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk about it because this is actually a good example of like purposeful songwriting in order to accomplish a specific theme, and like the songwriting and the music actually supports the theme, and we'll see that as we get into it. So yeah, let's just dive right in. Here's the intro. Okay, so let's just pause right there real quick because I actually think that little section there, when I first played this song last night, I was kind of surprised. I was not expecting that to be the beginning of this album. I mean, the album is called Lost Americana, and Americana has this very specific vibe to it that's, kind of like ranch party, partying at the barn house or something like that, with the guitars and the banjos and things like that. It's a very lively, real instrument genre, or I don't know if I would consider Americana a genre, but anyway, the point is that this isn't what I would associate with Americana. So the first time I heard it, I was actually a little surprised. I was like, what is this? Where's it going? Not just because it's a synth, but it's also a very fast and aggressive synth. Like it's just really, really in your face. It's very erratic and tense. And then on top of that, after these synths play here, let's play the whole thing again, and then let's let it continue. So yeah, like even those extra layers of synths that come in, they're massive and it's aggressive and heavy, and like I was kind of like, what is, I think in general this isn't like mind-blowing stuff, but especially when you think about the other singles that he's released for this album, this does not seem to fit the vibe that he's been setting for this album. So which I kind of thought was interesting. I was like, well, where's this going? And when I listen to songs, I always keep an open mind. I do my best to, because you never know what an artist might throw at you. Now, sometimes you keep an open mind and you think, okay, this is going somewhere, and then the song ends and you're like, oh, that didn't go anywhere, and that was actually just pointless or just random, But I'm very pleased to say, I don't want to spoil it, I don't want to like give it away until we get there, but this actually isn't random. It's very purposeful, having this be this erratic, tense, aggressive synth that's very like in your face, and then having these really big heavy synths come in too. It's just very like, it's very powerful, but it's not Americana, and that's what's kind of an interesting thing about it. So yeah, and then I just wanted to note this as well. I think it's not necessarily relevant to the songwriting, I think, but this is going to be awesome live. Like when you think about like being at a live show and the everything's blacked out, and then you hear this synth come in, like this is almost like, this is going to work very, very well at a live show. So I think that's just kind of a fun little thing to think about. Again, doesn't really say, it's not necessarily a determining factor in terms of the song quality, but it is something to think about, and something I was really like, that was on my mind. I was like, man, this is gonna kill live. So okay, but let's let it play, because then, you know, right around here the drums come in. Okay, so vocals are about to come in, but let's just talk about this real quick. I've got to say, I think that when the drums come in here, that big epic aggressiveness of the intro kind of gets neutered just a little bit, or not neutered, like softened. You can tell that they put just a little extra EQ on that main lead synth, and it just softens it a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan. I kind of liked how, again, I'm a metalhead, so I like it when it's like super aggressive. And I think that aggressiveness fits this whole part. And which, why don't I just say this now? This song is split into two parts. We're not going to, again, no spoilers, but like it's split into two parts. And the first part is, you know, this kind of more synthy, fast-paced vibe, right? And so I think that having that synth be so aggressive works, and then to soften it, it's like, okay, I get why they did it, because it does make room for the vocals, because the vocals do have this very big sound to them. They've got a lot of reverb, and they wanted to make sure that that was actually like present and audible in the mix, but like they wanted to leave room for it. But I was really digging that intro, even though I was like, this isn't Americana. What are we listening to? But I was still digging it. And then these drums come in, and I was like, okay, like you just kind of, you had some balls there, and then you kind of lost them. Not all the way, but whatever. Regardless, it's not a big deal. The drum beat though, I want to talk about the drum beat, because it's a pretty cool beat, and it will make more sense when I talk about it holistically later on. But the beat is constant kicks with the snare. Do do ba do 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 ba do 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 ba. You know, so it's like, it's very driving, and that kick is just this also I think is very purposeful. You know, it's meant to be very driving and like heavy in your face, kind of doesn't really let up. So yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just wanted to put a pin in that and like note it real quick. And then yeah, there's just like a softer synth playing here, which is fine. I think, again, a lot of the choices, the musical choices here, are really made to just leave room for the vocals and set up what the vocals are going to be doing. So yeah, with that said, the music is essentially the same from here up until the pre-chorus. So we're just going to talk about the vocals from here until we get to the pre-chorus. So let's let it play, and then we're going to have the vocals come in. All right, I'm gonna pause it there for just a second. So he comes in with a pretty simple melody, you know, da 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 da. It's nothing crazy, but there's a lot of space between these lines. So he says, you know, can't shut me up, and then there's like nothing. You know, obviously the music, but there's no vocals. I put my faith in a loaded gun, or that's not quite the notes he's saying. What is he saying? That's right. That's why I was having trouble with the melody, because he puts the word they at the end of the second line technically. So he's like, I put my faith in a loaded gun, they try to cut me down. So anyway, yeah. Before we get into the lyrics, Yeah, the melody is pretty simple, but it's very spacious, and he has a ton of reverb on there. Now that's more of like what I would think of when I think of Americana, right? So that, you know, that idea of like you're outside at like a festival with a hole that's so big that your voice just echoes, you know. It's really cool. It makes this section sound huge, and I want to mention again, like it's gonna sound great live, and it has a very live feel to it here on the track, which is cool. But yeah, other than that, there's no like vocal harmonies or anything like that to talk about. And this is generally the melody that he keeps for both verses. So let's just kind of dive into the lyrics, because I think that's another thing when you have songs like this where the vocals are, where there's a lot of space in between the lines are meant to actually be, they kind of do that so that you pay attention to the lines and what he's saying. It's very clear what he's saying. And so, and that's important because this is the first vocal section of the album. So he's setting up this album here. So he starts with "Can't Shut Me Up." So yeah, right off the bat, rebellious attitude. You know, a lot of the imagery on this album has been like biker, leather, that whole thing. Again, Americana. Even in the music video for this song, it's him wearing a leather jacket, riding a bike, right? So, strong opener. It's rebellious. It's cool. He says, "I put my faith in a loaded gun." So this is kind of, it's an interesting line. I think that there's a few ways that you could interpret it. Well, there's a lot of ways you can interpret it, but I think the main way, and the way that I view it, is that he you know, you think about the idea of having a loaded gun on you, right? Like on your person, like you conceal carry, that type of thing, right? Your faith is in your ability to defend yourself, right? So I think that it's a kind of a self-confident phrase, and it's also a bit of a dangerous phrase, right? And so it's a cool line, like, "I put my faith in a loaded gun." And it also has a very, like, again, that kind of earthy country grit to it, the song is called Outlaw Overture, you know, so it makes sense. And so it's a cool line, and it shows like, all right, there's a little bit of grit here. Can't shut me up. I put my faith in a loaded gun. But it also, like, he's going to defend himself, and he's going to fight back a little bit. So I actually like that line a lot. So then he says, "They try to cut me down. I was raised in a dying town." Yeah. This is fine. I do think it's a little simplistic overall. You know, when you think about it, right, it's like, here's the thing, I get what it means. So he's saying that he grew up surrounded by difficulty, so people's attempts to cut him down are kind of useless. Like he's dealt with it his whole life. I think it's just maybe a tiny bit on the nose, a little obvious. You know, a lot of artists like to evoke that small town vibe. Like, yeah, I was in a small town. Some of them are way too blunt about it. I think it's typically a little more, like, I think that there's more artistic ways that you could say it. I think there's more interesting ways that you can evoke that imagery without straight up saying like, yeah, I grew up in a small town, you know, or in this case, he says, "I was raised in a dying town." So for example, you could say like Main Street disappeared as I got older, or I watched mainstream fade away, something like that. You know, it's not a crazy change, and this isn't like super I know it seems like I'm being nitpicky, but I'm not actually like really ragging on him too much here. I'm just saying that, like, it's like maybe 5 to 10% too on the nose for me. Like, you can say a little bit more, but look, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, you're digging too deep." Like, I'm just saying, it's you can show, don't tell. It's like that. That's a constant principle: show, don't tell. So if you grew up in a small dying town, don't say, "I grew up in a small dying town." Say, "My favorite shop closed down. You know, my childhood home, the places I went as a child no longer exist." You know, you tell a story with it. That's typically how people speak in real life, and it almost always translates to more interesting lyrics as well. So anyway, there's that line. So right there, I think that's a good spot to so in the song, sorry, I'm getting a little bit off. After he says these lines, and really at the end of every 4 lines in the verses, he does this vocal sample thing. I'm gonna play it here real quick. So I'm a little bit iffy on that. I understand why he's doing it, right? There is this this part, this like part one of this song is sort of meant to evoke like the insanity of city life, of fame, of, not necessarily just extravagance, but also, degeneracy to a certain degree, and the effect that it's had on him. He's kind of burning out, which he literally says in the next section that we're about to cover. And so when you put this sound here is it's a sound that is very much associated with like mainstream pop city life music, this like vocal sample. I understand why you put it here. I just don't really like it. I think that it's kind of one of those things where like this is actually a little played out. These types of vocal samples, they were cool, 10 years ago, and even though it fits the theme of the song, I still just don't think it sounds very good, and it's not really that interesting to listen to either. It's not even like a particularly great composition. It's a pretty simple melody, and the vocal sample aspect is kind of corny at this stage of music. So yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't really do anything for me. And in fact, I think that he uses it 4 times in this song. Like, it's not even like a thing that splits the verse up. It's actually at the end of each verse. It kind of like bookends each verse, or each 4 lines of the verse. After a while, it does get old. Like you kind of get tired of it. And it's like, all right, yeah, we've heard it. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this, but it's not necessarily a deal killer either. But I will say this is one of my least favorite parts of the song, is this little like do 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 no 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 no. I don't really like it. It just, I don't think it really adds much, and in fact, it's kind of a stale musical technique. So yeah, but with that, we get into some pretty cool lyrics right after. All right, so this is a pretty interesting line. I normally am not like the biggest fan of drug lyrics, but this is actually a pretty cool line because it's not actually about drugs. When you get down to it, this line is about moving forward. It's about, I don't want to say it's about growing up or maturing necessarily, but it is about the state of mind that you are in when you're actually like getting better, so to speak. Like you're healing, but then you have these moments, and I say healing and getting better, I'm presuming that because he's sober. By saying I miss my drugs, that means he's not taking the drugs now, which means that he's sober, and that presumably means that he's doing better. He's trying to improve his life. But even in moments like that, you can still miss the craziness and what drew you to the drugs to begin with, right? They can be a lot of fun, and it can be a lot of fun to party like that. But you're trying not to, And so this line to me isn't even so much about the drugs. It's about, maybe a little bit of that like nostalgia for how crazy and reckless you were at a certain point in your life, even though you're not now, and you don't actually want to go back to that, but you just have those moments where you're like, man, I kind of wish I could do that again. I kind of, that was fun, getting fucked up, but like, you're not doing it. So it's an interesting line. It's a cool line, and you don't typically hear artists sing lines like this. So I like it. So then he says, they've been my friends since 21. This is I think the obvious take is that, this is 21 years old, but I actually think he could be referencing 2021. He leaves it open for that. That could have been the time when he started doing harder drugs. I know that he went to rehab back in like December or something. But yeah, back around like 2020 and 2021 was when he was kind of hitting a really big, like I would actually call it like his peak popularity. with Tickets to My Downfall. He really knocked it out of the park on that album, at least in terms of like achieving success and fame and popularity. And I think it's very possible that that would have been when he started doing the harder drugs. I don't know his whole life story, but I think saying like they've been my friends since 21, it leaves it open to where like it could either be 21 years old or 2021. So then, yeah, let's keep going. All right, so he says, still I'm burning out. You'll probably die before I make you proud. I like that he says, I miss my drugs. They've been my friends since 21. Still I'm burning out. I like that because that is actually a pretty major theme. And I think it's actually a really major theme on this album as a whole, based on what I've heard from the other singles. I haven't listened to the full album yet. My apologies. But I've listened to the singles and I listened to this song. I will listen to the album and I'll probably do another video or two on some of the songs. I've already done 4 for this album. I don't want to do every song, but I mean, I don't know, unless you guys want me to, I can do it. But yeah, a theme here seems to be that despite trying to get better, trying to heal, trying to get sober and get to a healthier place in your life, you're still struggling, and there's still this kind of you know, I don't know what you call it, this thing that's dragging you down. Maybe it's your own behavior, maybe it's, you know, the past, whatever it is. Like you're not like, okay, everything's getting better, right? Everything's supposed to be getting better, and then it's like, no, it's actually not. You're still kind of going downhill. But now you're not even on drugs, so you can't even blame it on that, right? So what the fuck is going on? I think that that's a really cool implication there by, you know, putting these lines together, right? I miss my drugs, but still I'm burning out. It's like it's something's wrong, basically. That's what he's saying. Something is seriously wrong, and the drugs were wrong and he's not doing them anymore, but he's still burning out, so he actually misses them. It's like, damn, I'm still burning out. I could be doing drugs and burning out. Why am I, you know, what am I doing? So cool line. But then he says, you'll probably die before I make you proud. This is fine. It's not a bad line. I just think it's kind of, I don't know. I've heard, I feel like this is a sentiment that I'm kind of tired of hearing, like, from artists. It's like, yeah, I'll never make my parents proud. It's okay. All right. Like he's in his mid 30s. MGK is. This isn't like, you know what I mean? Like you're not 20, you're not 18. Like your parents' approval, maybe that's the thing, right? Maybe this is appealing to like the millennial core audience or something. I don't know, but your parents' approval isn't something that you should be quite as concerned about in your mid 30s. Like if you haven't gotten their approval by then and you still feel like that you've let them down, that at that point you just got to call it, bro. Like you just got to be done with it. Like fine, you and your parents are not going to get along. So I find this line to be a little iffy. I don't know how to quite take it, but yeah, I get it. So anyway, to close out this whole verse, like in summary, people have been trying to bring him down, but he's going on the defensive, so to speak. He's you know, they're trying to shut him up, but he's withstanding it. However, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have his issues. He's trying to get better. He's trying to quit the drugs, but he misses them because even though he's quit them and he's sober and he's trying to improve his life, he's still burning out. Yeah, this is all cool. This is okay so far. And I think at this point in the song, when I was listening, I was like, okay, where's this going? Where is the song going? So then we get to the pre-chorus. So let's take a listen.
All the pages are blank till my life goes to shit. I know I do that on purpose just to write again.
Okay, so first off, this is a super short pre-chorus, but I think it's actually very well placed, and it fits kind of with the overarching musical themes of the song by giving us just a little taste of that clean guitar, right? Because there is a guitar in the chorus, but it's super low mixed. It's like barely audible. It might as well not even be there. So really, this is the only like clear guitar that you get in the first part of this song. And that's very important to note. I'll probably bring it back a little bit later, or talk about this a little bit later, but when we talk about the song holistically, but it's very important that he has a guitar here, and especially considering what he's saying. So he says, all the pages are blank till my life goes to shit. I do that on purpose. I know I do that on purpose just to write again. He sings it in very, so real quick, before we really dive into those lyrics, the melody is very kind of, well, it's low pitched, all the pages are blank till my life goes to shit. I know I do that on purpose just to write again. It's this kind of like, he's almost like resigned himself to like, yeah, here I go again. I'm doing it again. I'm crashing out again, or burning out again, not crashing out. He's not crashing out here. So yeah, it's interesting because this part is both peaceful and reflective, but also kind of self-aware. And I use the word resigned. It's very like, it's not depressing, but it's kind of like, fuck, here we go again, So yeah, I think objectively these are pretty good lyrics. Personally, this is just me personally, I like to talk about things objectively, but personally, I think they're just a little bit too meta. Like, here he is talking about how he's having trouble writing on a song that he wrote. It's fine. I don't want to like get too far into that. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a hater. But anyway, my personal feelings don't matter. Objectively, I think these are cool lyrics. The message is definitely here. He is purposefully self-destructing in order to get musically inspired, and he recognizes that he's doing it, and he recognizes, by his tone of voice and the phrasing of the lines, he seems to recognize that this is a problem. And so there's this kind of like interesting self-awareness going on here where it's like, yeah, I'm doing it again, and I know I'm doing it, and I can't really seem to stop it, and I don't know how to stop it, and I know that I don't know how to stop it, but I also know that I should. And it's like this kind of black hole, or like, I don't know, like cascading of self-awareness, right? That just kind of, or whirlpool, whatever you want to call it, just like this descent into like endless levels of self-awareness about like, what am I doing? So yeah, the implication though, again, by his tones, is that he would like to change that. He's trying to break this cycle, but he's not quite sure how, at least by this point in the song. So who knows? Well, I say who knows, but that's actually what brings us into the chorus, right? Because the chorus is kind of about this, burnout, this crash out, whatever you want to call it, right? But this mode that he's in, where he's trying to make some changes, he's trying to figure things out. So I'm talking about the chorus, but let's actually listen to the chorus. Paint my car black. Yeah. Okay. So we kind of explode into the chorus, but it's actually still a little subdued. There is an acoustic guitar buried in there, but it's mainly just synths, and then the drums keep the same driving beat, that do 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 ba do 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 ba do 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 ba. The vocals are pretty heavily layered, but the melody itself is actually pretty simple. It's da 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 na na da na 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 da na na, which that little like da na na, that's almost like a little call and response with the ad-libs, I guess you could say. So he says like, paint my car black, paint it black, burn my last check, burn it all. I know that's not the right notes, but yeah, you see what I mean? So he's got this big, main line, and then this little line underneath it afterwards. So that's fine. That's cool. Aside from that, honestly, on a musical level, it's kind of a boring chorus. I shouldn't say boring. It's not boring, but there's just not a whole lot else going on. It's pretty straightforward. so there's not too much else to talk about. So with that said, let's just dig into the lyrics. So we were talking about how, like, if we start at the beginning, right? So verse 1 sets up the fact that, like, yeah, people have been trying to bring him down, but he's withstanding it. He's trying to get better. He misses his drugs, you know, but again, he's trying to get better, but even without the drugs, he's still crashing out to some degree. Then you get the pre-chorus, which kind of drives that point home of, like, yeah, I'm what does he say? All the pages are blank till my life goes to shit. I do that on purpose just to write again. It's like, or I know I do that on purpose just to write again. So his life is still going to shit just so that he can get some semblance of, like, musical inspiration. And he's kind of tired of that cycle, and he knows he's doing it. And so then this chorus is his attempt to break out of the cycle. That's what this chorus kind of emphasizes, or that's like the main theme of this chorus is, like, yeah, everything's crazy. And so the lyrics, paint my car black, it's like, it's kind of funny, right? Like, you're famous and rich and you're having a meltdown and you're depressed. What do? Well, you can afford to just get your car painted black. I'm not shitting on him. I think that's actually kind of a funny line. Burn my last check. Pretty standard stuff. Like, yeah, burn it all. He literally says burn it all. Lose all contact, fake my own death. Again, these are all pretty normal lyrics. Like, there's nothing mind-boggling here. It's just him again severing his past, or severing who he's been, and trying to turn into someone new. That's the big thing. But he ends the chorus with make me feel like I'm alive. This line overall is look, people might not like it, but this is a corny line. Lines like this are corny. With that said, in context, it actually works really well. And so it's corny. He probably could have done better, but it fits very well with what he's going for in this song, which is he feels like he's not happy with who he is or where he's been at, and he's trying to make the change, and he doesn't know what that change is, but he knows that he doesn't feel like he's alive, and he needs to get that feeling back. Okay? So even though he literally states it, make me feel like I'm alive again, that I think you could have done a little better than that. Regardless, that is actually exactly what this part of the song is emphasizing. Part 1 is he is searching for that feeling of being alive again. So I think that's about it. Oh, okay. All right. One last thing. And again, I really like this. I'm going to clip this. So this is going to be at the start of the clip. I like this song, and it's good, but we got to talk about these stupid ad-libs. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. I swear I mentioned this on all the other breakdowns I did for him. I swear to God, he just went into the studio at some point and recorded a bunch of, yeah, all right, yeah, and then his producer just went into every single song and put these stupid little yeahs in there. I've been pointing it out since Cliche, because he does this stupid yeah on Cliche right before the third chorus starts up. And every other song, there is a yeah somewhere in there, even though it does not make any sense thematically. They are just throwing these random yeah into every single song. I don't know why they did this. The yeah does not fit this chorus. This chorus is a crash out chorus. He's crashing out. He is not happy with who he is. He's actually very depressed, and he's trying to find what will make him feel alive again, right? He is severing who he was in order to become something new so that he can feel alive again. But in this part specifically, he hasn't found it yet. He's not happy. He's not feeling that in this part. Literally, this part 1 of the song. Part 2 is different. So why did you put a yeah here? It doesn't fit. It's silly. I swear it's a producer thing, or a studio thing, or executive or something. It's like, we really want people to, like, feel empowered and, like, have these songs have energy, and this chorus is just a little depressing, so let's throw in a yeah. Oh my God. and it doesn't sound good either. It's not even like he does a good job singing it. Here, he sounds so monotone. That is the voice of someone who was told, hey man, your album's just a little too depressing and boring. We need you to throw in a yeah. Yeah. What the so anyway, all right. That's I like this song. It's actually probably the best of the 4 singles that he's released. This is stupid. These yeahs are so stupid. They're totally off theme. They take me out of place. I don't understand. So anyway, I have to just say that. I mean, it's not like it kills the song, but it's honestly, I think it's a little funny. But then there is this element that's like, why did you do this? Why are you like, what's the mentality here? Yeah, go listen to every other song on that he's released for the singles, and it's like every one of them. Yeah. So whatever. All right, cool. Let's get into the second verse.
Run, rebel, run. Don't let them turn you into what they want. I'm bad to the bone. 2 wheels and the body's chrome, yeah.
Okay. So, oh crap, I'm sorry. I just realized I haven't been updating my my little overlay here. Give me just 1 second, because I want to, in case somebody like is skipping around to a certain part, I want to make sure they know where to go. 139 is verse 2. And okay, so here in verse 2, the first thing to note is that the big aggressive synth that we heard in the intro and verse 1 is not playing. It is conspicuously absent. So really what we're getting is a bunch of bass and drums. It leaves a lot more room for the bass and drums. There are some synth layers that come in halfway through, which here, I'll just play those real quick. Hear that? Dun 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 dun.
Started drinking after our lectures, but I still can't sleep. This medication.
Okay, so that dun 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 dun, and that's all fine. Like it sounds perfectly fine. So, but they're just kind of standard layers to bring things up. Anyway, so other than that, there's not really too much here. Musically, so and the vocal melody is the same as well, so I think this is a good spot where maybe we just talk about the lyrics. Actually, you know what I do want to talk about now that we've kind of established the themes of this part or of this song for the most part. Sorry, now that we've established the themes of this part of the song, we can actually talk more about some of these musical elements. So you have the drum beat that's driving. That I think is purposefully meant to actually exhaust you a little bit, like mentally. I think that there's an element of it where you are supposed to, it's cool and driving at first, but then by the time we get done with the second chorus, it's going to be like, man, holy cow, especially at a live show or something. Like it's really like aggressive. The kick drum overall, the kick drum is actually one of the most aggressive sounds that you hear on a song, along with maybe the snare, right? And so, but because it's like subconscious because it's the bass, it's a right? And so you might not even notice it when you're listening. You might just be jamming to the song, but subconsciously it's like this knock, like dum, 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 in your ear. And so you might get I think what actually will happen and does happen on this song to a certain extent is that you subconsciously get worn out by it. So yeah, to me, this is, which is very important considering where this song goes and where it ends up, because there are no drums on the second half of this song. There's no drums. And so I think that, which is also, I believe, a very, very conspicuous purposeful choice. So yeah, this is a very good example of like, these drums are meant to be like driving you crazy to a degree. They're appealing, but they drive you crazy. And they get old and tiring after a while. And that really is what this section is about. It's about how he feels about the life he's lived, and he's maybe tired of it, and it's been fun and driving and exciting and crazy, but it's getting old and it doesn't ever seem to let up. So I think that that's something that's gonna, we see where that goes when we get to the second part, but it's very this is just a cool example of purposeful songwriting, like using the drums to emphasize the theme. So yeah, this is really good, actually. Like, this is really good, especially because this song, this part here, is very, like, I would call it appealing. Like, this whole first half of this song is very appealing to people, to like the average listener, right? There's nothing really like super crappy or bad about it. I know that I'm being very nitpicky about certain things, but that's my job. That's the podcast, right? But to the average listener, this is a very appealing section, and so they might not even notice. So you what I'm getting at is that you wouldn't even notice that that's what the drums are doing, because it's kind of a subtle thing, but that is what they're doing, and it's on purpose. And I really like that. I really appreciate that. So props to him. Cool thing with the drums. So yeah, aside from the musical elements, the lyrical elements are all pretty much the same, or the vocal melodies are pretty much the same. So let's go through these lyrics. So he says, "Run, rebel, run."
Rebel run. Don't let 'em turn you into what they want.
Okay, so he says, "Run, rebel, run. Don't let them turn you into what they want." So he's speaking to the crowd. He's speaking to the audience here, but I think that there is definitely an element of him speaking to himself to a degree. Like, he's having to remind himself not to let them turn him into what they want to, right? So I think that that's kind of a cool way to phrase that, where he's yelling it out to the audience, but really deep down, it's something that he's reminding himself. So then he says, "I'm bad to the bone."
Bad to the bone.
And he makes sure to go bad to the bone. 2 wheels and a body's chrome, and the body's chrome. Motorcycle, obviously. I don't know. I was trying, to me, like, 2 wheels and the body's chrome, yeah, to me sounds like it could be metaphorical, but I can't quite think of what it's a metaphor for. I mean, to me, it's literally about a motorcycle, but metaphorically, is he talking about himself at all? I can't quite piece that together. So it might not be that, honestly. He says, "I'm bad to the bone." I don't think he's trying to be artsy fartsy and metaphorical here. I think he's actually trying to be the opposite. So, hey, it's cool. So, "Run, rebel, run. Don't let them turn you into what they want. I'm bad to the bone. 2 wheels and the body's chrome." It's like, it's cool. Yeah. Again, rebel, can't shut you up attitude. So then he says on the second half,
2 wheels. My speed still slurs. I started drinking after our lectures, but I still can't sleep. This medication doesn't work on me, no.
all right, I think that's a good place to real quick just note that vocal synth. I think this is really, like, the 4th time I heard it, I was very much tired of it. It gets really old. They could have added some variation. I honestly, I think that the better way to have used that would be to use it to split the verses up. So to have 4 lines, then the vocal sample, then 4 lines, and then go into the pre-chorus or chorus or whatever, right? But that's not what they did. I think it just kind of drags a little bit, especially considering this section or this part of the song is meant to be very fast paced and driving. So I don't like that there's a part that's in there that feels really stale and bland, and that I'm like, I'm bored of this, you know? So anyway, regardless, his lyrics here are, my speech still slurs. I started drinking after I left church. Yeah, I don't, these lyrics are fine to me. I don't really know what to pull from them. What I mean is in terms of like new information. So usually in the second verse of a song, like the first verse is setting up your conflict, setting up your character, your story, the conflict, all of that. Like, what are we talking about in this song, right? I think he did that really well here, as I, already kind of summarized. Then you get a pre-chorus, which will typically maybe, the pre-chorus kind of expounds on the themes and the ideas. And then the chorus is where the theme sort of gets driven home. Like, what is this song about? What is the idea or the theme that we're talking about in this piece of music, right? The second verse of a song, because the bridge or whatever, the bridge or interlude, that's where you resolve the conflict or change the conflict or something like that, right? Like that's, I always go back to a quote that I heard from Sting that I really like, which is, the bridge is therapy. The bridge is where you change the meaning of the chorus to maybe be positive or negative or something, right? Like that's where the change happens, but you can't get to that change without first explaining what the conflict is. And then the second verse is where you can kind of elevate the conflict. I don't really know if he accomplishes that here. In fact, if anything, these lyrics almost feel kind of placeholdery, like they don't really add anything. So yeah, but he says, my speech still slurs. I guess you could say that it's slurring because his brain's messed up because of drugs. Kind of sucks, but again, to me, this has the same effect as I miss my drugs. So I don't know. It's just not like, I prefer I miss my drugs. This to me just feels like kind of a depressing consequence of the drugs. Whereas I miss my drugs is actually like an internal moral battle, so to speak. And then he says, I started drinking after I left church. Yeah, I mean, again, kind of similar to like, I'm burning out. I'm still burning out. It's like, fine. I know I feel like I'm a little bit disjointed on these lyrics, but it's because I'm not really sure what to pull from them. It's just like, yeah, okay, you're fucked up. You already said that. You've already driven this point home, and you've already driven home that you're aware of it. So are you just driving it home again? So that's why maybe I'm trying to read further into them than I should, but that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, so then he says, but I still can't sleep. This medication doesn't work on me. Again, kind of the same thing. Like, we get it. You got problems and you're trying to resolve them, and the things that you're trying are not working. So yeah, not too much else to talk about there. So then we get into the chorus. Okay, so there really isn't a change in that chorus. I think there might be a few additional synths here. Hold on, let me just check. Yeah, so there's like a little bit of extra synth layering here on this second time, and he does repeat "make me feel like I'm alive." But other than that, it's the same lyrics, right? It's are they the same lyrics? Yeah. Paint my car black, burn my last check, lose all contact, fake my own death, make me feel like I'm alive. So yeah, again, I think that this is probably the most, like, verse 2 and chorus 2 are maybe the most underwhelming sections of this song, simply because I don't think that they really add much new to it. It's like, yeah, we get it. You got the problems. Like, you didn't really layer this on. I feel like this might have been a really good and actually, let me do this, because I don't want people to just think I'm criticizing just to criticize. This would be a good point where he could mention his daughter. right? Like verse 2 could be like, it doesn't need to be super deep or super serious, but this would be the time when you mention maybe like the ones that you love, your wife or your daughter or something like that, right? That this is the moment. So because that's where you, again, I say that, like, you think about act 2 in a song or a story, I mean, sorry, that's where you elevate the conflict and you evolve it, and you add another layer or more seriousness to it, right? Like verse 2 is where you can do things like that. And so that would have been the perfect moment for him to bring in the family aspect, bring in something a little more substantial or deeper or something like that, right? Not in a very serious way, because that's kind of what he does later in the song, but just in this kind of devil may care attitude, he could still mention like his loved ones. And that would be deeper than just, you know, I still can't sleep, my medication doesn't work. It's like, okay, my speech slurs, okay, like that sucks. Don't get me wrong, I get it, it sucks, but it doesn't actually, like, you're not evolving. You've already told us that you miss your drugs. You already told us that life's falling apart for you. Maybe this is the point where you could mention how it's affecting the people you love, right? So anyway, we get into this little musical transition, which brings back the synth from the intro.
Make me feel like I'm
Super huge. It's super huge. The synths are sounding fantastic. But now we've got real drums on top of them too. Little phaser there, like long phaser. And then we get a chord change. So I didn't mention this earlier, but I want to mention it now, that the verse, or really most of this part here, it just switches back and forth between the same 2 chords. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I forgot to. So if we go back to, why isn't this working? Is it because Spotify is not open? What's going on? Okay. So if you hear the chords in the background, it goes dun 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 dun, because that's what it's doing. It's actually just this back and forth between the same 2 chords. Hear that? So that's kind of that's interesting for a few reasons, but first and foremost, it's because we subconsciously follow along with the chord progressions. And when the chord progressions are going back and forth like that, after a while, there is a certain point where we naturally, just because we've heard songs before, we've heard music, we know music, where we will start to think, this is old, this is getting old, I've heard it. And we seek out a little bit of a change. I think that there's a change in the chorus.
on purpose just to write again.
Yeah, so the chorus has a different chord progression for sure, which is fine. But this main synth part does not. And that's kind of the what I wanted to point out, is that we've grown accustomed to how this synth part should sound and how this chord progression should sound because we've heard it, a couple dozen times now as we've gone through this song. Why is that not working? I'll figure it out later. Go back and forth. And this phaser comes in. And then that chord hits. And we're now very familiar with this back and forth and this chord progression, but when that chord hits, that's when we feel it. Like, even if you don't know music, that's when you can feel like, oh, something's happening. Something's changing already. And that phaser lines up really well with that, because the phaser is kind of like that swirling sound that you hear. And so it's a really cool little transition. It's like, we're breaking out of the mold. That's kind of the theme that I'm getting at here. We're actually breaking out of this back and forth that we've been in, which not only is very effective musically, it is perfectly on theme. This is exactly what this song is about, and it's exactly what's about to happen. So not only was the first part of this song about this kind of cycle of chaos and craziness and the desire to get out of it, we are now musically breaking out of the same chord progression and also getting into him actually breaking out of that thematically and lyrically. So this is really good, and this is why I say this is the best of all the singles on this album. It is really smart songwriting. Like I this is actually like above average. Most songwriters don't think about this. I think that he did. I think that he knew what he was doing here. It's called Outlaw Overture for a reason. This is meant to encompass what this album is about. It's an overture, and splitting it into two parts and all of the lyrical themes and all of it. It's very purposeful. I am actually very impressed with this intro song. I wasn't expecting this. I certainly wasn't. I really didn't like Cliche. I thought it was cliche, but this is very impressive songwriting. So anyway, so we break out of this chord progression here. And then I'm going to pause it there because, you know, we're talking about this transition. Everything's changing. That phaser comes in and it just to the point of like complete and total breakdown. And then just out of nowhere, totally random, we get acoustic guitar. And so, I mean, I could say so much about this. So first off, like, this is really cool. This is really cool. He has really nailed this. So I don't want to like glaze it too much. I want to break it down, but I can't like help but emphasize, like, this is cool. This is good songwriting. Like this is what you want to hear from your pop stars. This songs like this. I'm very impressed by this song. I'm very happy by it. You know, I remember seeing when before this song was playing or before the song was out, he had the premiere on YouTube for the music video, and I saw it there, and it's, you know, called Outlaw Overture, and I'm like, all right, whatever, you know, we'll see what it is. And I kind of was expecting another song like Miss Sunshine or Vampire Diaries, where it's just, you know, it's fine, it's a normal song, it's not bad, but it's not like the most mind-boggling shit. This still, I wouldn't say this is like mind-bogglingly good, but this is like way better than I was expecting from him. So seriously, props. Like this is really good. So he comes in with, let's play it. Oh my god, just so y'all know, my space bar is not playing Spotify. That's why I keep having these weird pauses. Okay, so he comes in with the guitar. Okay, so a few things. We have acoustic guitars in both the left and the right, just kind of playing like these dun 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 dun. They sound super peaceful and calming. Which is funny because usually that kind of like down-picked guitar sound is typically associated with like aggression, right? Like jun, 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 jun. But it sounds so nice and calming and soothing here, actually. And I might add, because there's no drums on this part, on part 2 of this song, they actually sort of act as the percussion and keep the rhythm going. So there's that. On top of that, there is like a synth playing. It's a very I don't know what you call it, like it's a pretty like it doesn't sound like a real instrument. It definitely sounds like a synth, but it has this kind of like smooth airiness to it. It's in the center mix, and it's like woo, 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 woo. Here, check it out. Yeah, it's very peaceful, but it's following those guitars. So then while you have those three instruments kind of holding down like the rhythm, like dun 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 dun, in a very calming, relaxing way, you have on the right ear the melody guitar playing. And it's a very calm, relaxing melody. Well, actually, before we even get to that, there is this nice little transition guitar part here that comes in immediately, where he actually plays some like harmonics. That little that's a guitar harmonic. If you're not a guitarist, it's going to be kind of hard to explain, but it is a more advanced guitar technique. It's not hard, but it's not like a beginner guitar technique. So it's da na 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 da na na da da na na. It's very nice. It's very pleasant. It, you know. And then last thing I want to note is there's bass here. And the bass is playing, the bass is kind of following the guitar a little bit, you know, doom, doo, 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 doom. But it sounds really nice and calm as well. You hear that? Da-na-na-na. Listen for the bass there, the da-na-na-na. Okay, so here we get some more open chords. Well, actually, let's just play this section.
Somewhere cheap where the living is easy, out of all their reach, set my spirit free.
Okay, so the melody guitar cuts out, and instead we have these piano chords that come in that give as like the long notes, right? So think about it like this: when you have the dynamics of the guitars, you have the more like rhythmic percussive guitar that's just dun 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 dun. If you just had that, I think the section would sound maybe a little more tense. So then over on top of that, you can put something more melodic or spacious to open the section up a little bit, and that's how you get like dynamics between the different instruments, right? So the lead guitar, like that melody guitar that was playing, it's able to cut out. And then they put these pianos over it, which the piano's playing a really simple part, mainly because the vocals come in and it doesn't want to like overpower the vocals. But not only does it still accomplish kind of that openness that the lead guitar was doing, but it also bringing in a new instrument can like evolve the sound, especially when it happens kind of quick like this, right? And so especially when the vocals come in and the piano comes in, what it kind of sounds like to me is that this section of the song is like blossoming a little bit. It's like it's blooming, right? So it's not just guitars. We've got guitar and bass and synth, and now we're bringing in a new instrument, piano and the vocals, right? And so does that make sense? Like, because guitars can sound like so many different things, but a guitar is still a guitar, right? A guitar does not sound like a piano. And so bringing in a new tonality, a new sound, opens things up a little bit. That's what I mean when I say like blooming. So it's cool. It's a very nice, pleasant part. MGK also sings this with a very interesting tone.
Living is easy.
Oh, let's back it up just a little bit.
Where the living is easy, out of all their reach, set my spirit free. I feel
so yeah, he's got this really airy tone, take me somewhere cheap where the living is easy. I'm not a good singer, or I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't think I am. But regardless, I'm not as good of a singer as MGK. And but still what he's doing, he's got this really like open, almost like he's smiling while he sings, right? Like, take me somewhere cheap, versus maybe something like take me somewhere cheap. Like he's not singing it with like a disgust on his face. It's very open, smiley, take me somewhere cheap. So it sounds happy, like it really does. It's a very pleasant, happy part. I'm very not necessarily surprised by it, but I'm happy that it is what it is. I think that it actually comes off really, really pleasant and works really nicely. So now lyrically, so yeah, well, melodically, like na 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 da na 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 na, very nice melody. Complete contrast from all of the melodies from before, right? Paint my car black, burn my last check. Like total different. We are like full on melodic, happy, pleasant. Everything is peaceful and calm. So yeah, lyrically he says, take me somewhere cheap where the living is easy. So to me, this is a rejection of the extravagant lifestyle that he was spiraling in the first part of the song. He has fully rejected it. Like this part of the song, part 2, represents that mental change, and this first lyric is the like affirmation of like, yeah, I'm done with the way that I've been doing things. We're changing things. I don't want to be a part of that extravagant, crazy shit. I want somewhere cheap, and I want the living to be easy. The next 2 lyrics really drive that home. Out of all their reach, set my spirit free. Now, again, these are not like, oh my God, mind-boggling fucking lyrics, right? But they are very nice, and they fit the theme of this song perfectly. It's exactly what he's going for. Out of all their reach, set my spirit free. And even that word free, like that's another cool thing about words, right? Is that they actually evolve from the phonetic sounds that we made as humans, as like Neanderthals. So when you think about like the word like fuck, right? Like think about the way your mouth looks when you say like fuck. Like you're actually showing teeth. But then when you talk about like cheap and easy and free, you smile when you say those words, like you free, like that's just how those words are, and that's why they actually have the sound that they have, and that's why we chose those words for something like free or easy, right? Because like compare the way that your face looks when you say like easy versus difficult. Like your mouth actually forms more aggressive patterns. So it's kind of like, that's just an interesting thing to note. And so it's, what I'm saying is by choosing these words on multiple levels, he is setting a certain tone of lightness. There's like a lightness and brevity and like happiness to these words themselves beyond just their actual like meaning and definitional meaning, right? So it's cool. It's very good word choices. So then he has another thing I want to point out is that this section, like Genius, whenever I pull the lyrics from it, called this the chorus of part 2. I don't really, it is the part that's repeated, but I kind of view it more as like a refrain, meaning it's I know that people might think, oh, it's the same fucking thing, but like what it is it's like, I think that this section, I prefer to think of it as not really having a structure to it, like a specific organized structure. It does, obviously, we're talking and breaking it down, but there is this element of like, we're just free flowing here. We're just kind of letting the song take us where it's going to take us, right? So I like that. And so then we get into this like post chorus, right? And actually, to that point, if we're calling the vocal sections out according to Genius, we have the chorus, the post chorus, a verse, the chorus, and then a bridge. And it's like, well, what's the difference between a bridge and a post chorus in this section specifically? And then he has the outro too. And so it's like, what do these sections even mean at a certain point? It's like, I think that that's kind of what's interesting, is like this section doesn't have a defined structure to it. It's very much just free flowing, and which is exactly what it's trying to be and what it means to be and what it should be, given the theme that he's going for of like peace and comfortability and leaving behind the craziness. So let's keep going. Let's listen to this post chorus.
Confined by societal
Oh, a little too soon.
Confined by societal.
Oh my God.
Set my spirit free. I feel confined by societal norms. I was born to walk the line. Survived being insecure, but it led to my decline.
Okay, so I want to note again, the way he's singing it is very powerful. I was born to walk the line. Like he's very open mouth singing this. It sounds very I talk a lot, like I mentioned earlier about like the yeahs, when he does like yeah, he doesn't sound genuine when he's doing that. That sounds like some studio fucking dude told him to do that and he's just like, okay, fine, I'll do it. It doesn't sound normal or natural. This sounds extremely sincere. This, like the way that he is singing this and portraying this, it is very, very sincere. And like, here's what I want to say, and why I'm pointing it out is because I actually think these lyrics are not super great on this post chorus. Like, I feel confined by societal norms. I was born to walk the line. It's like, okay, edgelord, like, whatever, get over yourself. And then survived being insecure, but it led to my decline. It's like, okay, like, cyberbullied, like, get over yourself again. Like, I know that sounds really harsh, and like all the haters are gonna fucking hate me for saying that, but that is they are not like the greatest lyrics I've ever heard, right? It's like, oh, you and everybody else feel confined by societal norms, like you and everybody else thinks they were born to walk the line. So it's like, okay, whatever on the lyrics, but I think that he makes it work just by like a sliver, just because of how unbelievably sincere he sounds when he's singing this. It sounds like it is really coming from the heart. I actually really love the way he sings like, I was born to walk the line, because it almost sounds, peaceful, the same way that the section before it sounded peaceful, but there is this like pained, like wistfulness to it, like he's been striving for something, like, so it's not just like, I said, okay, edgelord, right, to tease the song a little, tease him a little bit, but like, he's not singing it like that. He's singing it like, there's this wistfulness, which again, remember, like, this album is called Lost Americana. And so he's feels like he's lost something that he's trying to get back. So to me, it's less about like how edgy he is and more about how he feels like he's lost a part of himself that he's trying to get back. And so just for that, I think that he kind of, just by a hair, gets away with these lines.
I feel confined by societal norms. I was born to walk the line.
Like that doesn't sound like that sounds sad. It's peaceful, but it's sad and it's wistful, and it's like there's a sense of longing there. Like, I was born to walk the line, like you want something. So it works. It actually works really well, even if again, personally, I don't think the lyrics are super great.
Survived being insecure, but it led to my decline.
I think I was born to walk the line is definitely like the best line in this little section, but he still sings survived being insecure, but it led to my decline. He sings it well, but I don't know. I that's just not a good line to me. And it kind of is like, okay, we get it. You're insecure, man. Like, fine. Okay, but then we get into the next section, and this is where things really pick up, faux show. Let's just let it play.
This time I don't think I'll turn back. This time I'ma do shit my way. I'm gone by the time they come back. This route is a one-road highway. Same face with a brand new wardrobe. My old clothes in gasoline. Smoke can't roll cigs on my old soul. I feel just like James Dean.
Okay, so a few things. First off, you get an acoustic guitar coming in, strumming really fast along with him while he's singing, right? Yeah, this is cool. This is actually a really cool section, and this is, you know, if we're talking about like the idea behind this song and these two parts, is that part one is this, it's this frustration and this self-awareness with where he's at in his life. He has, you know, he's quit drugs and he's fought back and withstood all of the criticisms that he's gotten and people who have tried to cut him down, right? But at the same time, he has this cycle of self-destruction and he's aware of it. And maybe sometimes he uses it for artistic purposes or something. But in general, he is aware that he is self-destructing in order to keep what he's got happening going. And, you know, he's tired of that. And the implication is that he's trying to break out. And that's where the chorus comes in, right? That's the theme. He wants to break out of this cycle of self-destruction, painting his car, burning his checks, all of that shit, right? So what we get here is the actual breaking out of it. Like so when we first entered this section and everything is extremely peaceful and calm and there's no drums and it's actually very nice. He says, I just want to go somewhere cheap where the living's easy, like out of their reach, set my spirit free, right? Like he's finding like whatever change he needed to have, he's making that change now. There's a musical change that happened within him. And now he's explaining what that change is, which is a rejection of the extravagance and the craziness and the drama of his past and embracing something new. Now, what we have here is maybe a reflection. Well, the post-chorus was kind of a reflection of how he got here, right? Where he's like, I feel confined by societal norms. I was born to walk the line, survive being insecure, but it led to my decline. Like these are, again, this is kind of the problem with those lyrics. I don't know if they're the best lyrics, but they are kind of a post-mortem on who he was, right? Like I survived that insecurity. It led to my decline. And I think that what he means there is maybe like spiritually, because he literally says, set my spirit free. Like I think that there's a part of him that feels like he lost who he was to a certain extent. And now he's going to try to get that back. And that's what this fast part is, right? It's basically an affirmation of who he's going to be moving forward. So yeah, now let's play it real quick one more time, just a little bit of it.
This time I don't think I'll turn back. This time I'ma do shit my way. I'm gone by the time they come back. This route is a one-road highway.
Okay, so again, this is cool. This is really cool. This is like, this to me is the climax of the song. This is the, like, he is establishing what he's doing moving forward. This is like this is the kind of flag in the ground for the album, right? Like he's planting the flag. This is what this album is going to be. This is this new direction for him in his life, all of that, right? I just got to say it though. These lyrics are kind of like super on the nose. There is nothing to interpret here. This time I don't think I'll turn back. We got you, you know? And so it's like, I'm a little bit torn. I really like this song. This all fits into the theme. I love the musicality of this song, but then you have some stuff like this where it's like, okay, all right, you're being just a little too like we're losing the artistry here a little bit. It's too blatant, you know? And I know that people might disagree with me on that, but there's so many ways that you can portray this emotion of like being set free without saying like, this time I'm gonna do shit my way. It's like, okay, man, like, got it, you know? So anyway, I just want to say that in advance as we go through these lyrics, because I do think it's a little like, all right, fine. I like everything surrounding this. I like the context. I like the way he's singing it, the fast-paced melody. It's all really great. I just think the lyrics are a little bit lacking, at least these first few lyrics. I do like, same face with a brand new wardrobe, my old clothes and gasoline. That's pretty cool. That's a cool line. So yeah, anyway, so he says, this time I don't think I'll turn back. This time I'm gonna do shit my way. I'm gone by the time they come back. This route is a one road highway. Again, there's not really too much to talk about. Like they're just, that's what it is. He's not turning back. He's doing things his way. That's it. Same face with a brand new wardrobe, my old clothes and gasoline. Honestly, I do think that's kind of a weird line, because aren't you supposed to be making an internal change? I think that's how I would personally view it. Like this is supposed to be like a deep interpersonal change, not an external one. So, okay. It just seems a little contradictory and a little bit like, okay, the point isn't that you're just changing outfits. The point is that there's a part of you, like your soul, that's actually changing here. Set my spirit free. That's what you said. You said, set my spirit free. So like, why are you talking about your clothes? Smoke hand-rolled cigs. I'm an old soul. I feel just like James Dean. Again, this is fine. This kind of maybe sets up that Americana vibe. So we've had like the themes get established, and this is that little hint of Americana and what he's going for and where the new direction is taking him. So again, like, I wish there was a little bit more to talk about here, considering this is like the lyrical climax of the song, him breaking free of what he was before, but he hasn't actually given me too much lyrically to work with here. It's more of like, he's spelled it out. That's what I'm saying. He's spelled it all out here. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad. In fact, the song is good. It's a good song, but I think that there could have been just a little bit more work put into some of these lyrics to make them really drive things home in a more artful way, rather than just telling the listener what it is. So anyway, we get another chorus.
Same face with a brand new wardrobe, my old clothes and gasoline. Smoke hand roll cigs on my old soul. I feel just like James Dean. But take me somewhere cheap where the living is easy.
So now we get vocal harmonies over in the left ear on this chorus. This is, so again, I talked about like this section blooming. This is a great example of that. So we have the acoustic guitar from the fast paced part before still playing, but then we bring back in the melody guitar that we heard at the beginning of this section, which is both of those guitars are in the right ear. So the right ear sounds extremely full while the left ear sounds kind of empty, and that's the perfect chance, because then he brings in his vocal harmonies and fills that space up. And so what we get is this slow layering throughout this section of, the two acoustic guitars just kind of strumming, silent or strumming percussively. You get the synth in the background that's kind of like an airy synth following along. You get the piano playing these big long chords. You get the fast strumming guitar that we got from the part before it that kind of picks up the energy. And then you get the melody guitar that you heard before, which really makes that right ear like blossom with guitar sounds. And now you get all of these extra vocal harmonies in the left ear that just make this huge, like, there's just all these layers that make a part that is calm and relaxing feel very, very powerful and deep, it's a very like musically and sonically appealing to listen to without ever losing the theme or what he's going for here.
Oh, I feel just like James Dean, but take me somewhere cheap where the living is easy. Out of all their reach, set my spirit free.
Like, again, notice how those vocal harmonies are almost all in the left, and that's because they got the guitars on the right. And by panning things differently, having it like that, it just has this really nice effect of like, there's so much going on, and there's like, again, I use that word blossoming. I think it's just the perfect word to use for this. That we are surrounded by music. We're surrounded by all of the elements of this song, and they've all been very, meticulously constructed. It's a very well put together section. So then we get into this. It's called like the bridge. I would consider this more of the outro, though.
What's left behind? What's left behind? Can't take it with life is left behind, nothing's left behind. Can't take it with me.
Real quick before we get into that, I want to talk about this because this is the last line of the song, and it's kind of an interesting one. And I think that this is like the big driving home factor, right? Where if there was ever any question about the change, this is where it's put to rest. And I actually think that these lines are very impactful. So he says, what's left behind? What's left behind? It's a question. He's questioning what is left behind. Like, and then he says, can't take it with me. So the implication there is that he's actually thinking about his past. He's thinking about the person that he was before and actually asking himself, like, what is there anything that I forgot or left behind? Like, is there anything from that? But then he kind of affirms like, because anything that's still back there, I can't take it with me. But then he says, nothing's left behind, can't take it with me. And I think that what that means is like, there's nothing from that life that's worth bringing forward, bringing into this new place that he's going, which I actually think is a really deep line. You know, I think a big part of maturing and growing up and like developing into a better person is the loss of materiality. I think it's when you realize that, you know, things, whether it be like drugs or, you know, mansions and things like that, like it's nice. Drugs aren't nice, but like having nice things can be nice for sure, but it's not really going to fulfill you. It doesn't feed your soul, right? It doesn't do anything for you necessarily in the sense that it makes you a better person. That doesn't mean be lazy and not care, right? It doesn't mean don't try to do things or accomplish things or something like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. You absolutely should have drive and ambition and shoot for the stars, right? But it doesn't mean that those material rewards that you get are actually like the point of it, right? You do it because you do it, because that's what life is about. That's part of, like, you know, that's part of what it means to live a good life and to live a happy life, is to actually pursue and move forward and embrace it. You don't just sit around and do nothing and wait to die, right? And so but it's doing it because it's good, doing it because it's right, and because it's fruitful for your soul. And so that loss of materiality and that loss of that, like, oh, I'm doing it for money, or I'm doing it for this, it's like you're actually probably not going to get money. Now, you should pursue money if you want to get money, for sure, but the idea that I'm portraying is that, like, that pursuit, you're actually probably going to be much more successful monetarily and much more fulfilled if you pursue it just for the pursuit. Now, that doesn't mean be stupid and reckless and just pursue something stupid that you have no chance at, right? But just to do it because you love it, right? You should be smart at the things that you do and the decisions that you make, especially if your angle is to try to get money or any material good, right? I think money is just kind of like the pinnacle of materialism. But at some point, even when you get the money, and I think this is a big thing that this song is portraying, even when you get the money and you get the fame and the success, it doesn't actually make you a better person. It doesn't actually heal who you are, or emotionally fulfill you, or spiritually or intellectually fulfill you. Only the pursuit of good things, like that pursuit of virtue can really do that. And so I think that's kind of the deeper message of this song, which is why I like it so much. It's actually a pretty deep song, and these last lines really emphasize that, about like it's, where he's going, there's nothing that he's left behind. He doesn't need any of that stuff anymore. He shouldn't need it. And that's a really good message. That's a really strong message. Not just for like the album and the song overall, but also for, like, real life. Because ultimately, like, that's what music is. That's what art is. Art is meant to kind of poke you on the shoulder a little bit and tell you, like, hey, come on, like, awaken your mind a little bit, maybe give you a different perspective and like make you think about things differently. That's why we experience art. I think, well, that's why I think you should experience art. I think that art is meant to be an intellectual pursuit, but a lot of people just think of art as something to accommodate their own emotional state, which I think is a bit reductive considering the potential of art. But we don't need to dive into all that. So yeah, we did it. Oh, sorry. No, we got the ooze. So yeah, that's kind of a nice little somber moment where you can reflect and think about everything that just happened and what the journey that this song just took you through. So yeah, holistically speaking, I again, I love the song. I actually really like it. It's not, again, I don't think that this is like totally mind-boggling stuff from a songwriting angle, but it is absolutely like above average. Like a lot of thought went into this, a lot of thought, and I'm happy to say that it paid off. Even though there was a few corny lines, a few lines that are a little on the nose. I don't really like the vocal sampling in the first half. None of those are deal breakers by any stretch. It's a good song, and it has a good message. So yeah, it's very cool, this journey from materialism and craziness and burning out and all of that, and like feeling lost and just searching for meaning, to slowing down, reclaiming yourself and your soul, and moving in a more positive direction. So good stuff. There we go. We did it. We made it through. If you stuck around this whole time, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so a couple final little things. Mix wise, I think the mix is central to this song, actually. I think the mix really, so you have the first half of the song being the super synthy, heavy, live, big, massive reverb vocals. Like it's just this crazy epic, pop thing, and then the second half is complete opposite. Everything is very dry. It's very, personal. It's very airy and light. And it sounds very peaceful. And it's the complete opposite of the first half. So yeah, they actually tell a bit of a story with the composition and the mix here. Thematically, we've talked about it, but this song is about becoming a better, well, it's about maybe reflecting on who you were and choosing a different direction, or who you've been and choosing a different direction from that. And ideally a direction that's better, where you are more free. You are pursuing virtuous things, not necessarily material things. And overall just living a better life. So yeah, structurally this song is very cool. Obviously the splitting it into two parts the way that it did is extremely impactful. It has a big impact on the way that the song, well, it's not just impactful, it's thematically relevant, and it's actually what makes the song what it is, right? It was the whole point of the song is that there is a journey here and we're going to portray it a certain way. And I think they did a brilliant job with that, by splitting it into the two parts. So that structure, and then also with the first half of the song being kind of like a more conventional pop song, and then the second half being a little bit more free flow, as if he just felt that whole section out, and then maybe like maybe he improvised that section out and then officially made each section, like figured out, okay, cool, this is how it should flow based on me just doing an improv session. Now let's actually nail down each of these parts and like solidify, piano comes in here, or a acoustic guitar comes in here, or something like that, right? So it feels very natural though, in the way that second part flows. Very unconventional. It doesn't follow like a conventional structure either. So yeah, cool stuff. Lyrically, again, this split between the two halves. The first half is about, basically the rebelliousness, the drugs, the craziness, but still burning out, slurring your words, drinking at church, but then still trying to find that purpose, right? Still feeling that, like, that thing where something's wrong, like something's pulling at you and nagging at you and you're trying to solve it. And so then, like, that's what the chorus is, right? Is you're burning money, you're painting your car, you're faking your death, you're just doing all of these ridiculous, over the top, things that a famous person would do. And then finally you end up at the second half where all of the lyrics are very peaceful, they're very personal, and they're much more meaningful, I think, too. So yeah, very good stuff lyrically. And so finally, overall artistic merit, again, I would consider this like an above average song. I don't typically like to give numbers to songs, but I would give this maybe like a 6 or a 7. And I know people will be like, what the fuck you just said? It's an 8 or a 10. It's like, no. Like a 5 is a normal song. A 5 is average on my scale. That's a normal song. This is above average. This is not a masterpiece. This isn't like November Rain or anything like that, right? But it's a really well-made song, and it deserves some praise for that. So yeah, I think I would safely give it a 7. I feel good about that. It is a good song. It's a very nice song, and it has a good message, and it's all done very well. All the musical elements are good. The guitars sound really, really good. They're really nice. The synths are powerful and impactful and overwhelming, in a cool way, but also in a way that's thematically relevant. And the final message is one that I really like and I appreciate. So anyway, there we go. We did it. That's the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you made it this far. Let me know if you want me to do any more of these. If there's any songs you want me to hear, or that you'd want me to break down from this album. Like I said, I've already done 4. I'm recording this on the Friday that the album comes out and posting it on the Saturday. So it's very new. But I already have next week's episode planned out. But after that, if there's a song that you'd like me to do for this album, let me know. I would love to do it. It's actually been kind of nice. I wouldn't say that I've been a very big MGK fan in the past, and I don't know if I would still be like a hardcore fan now, but I think this song especially, has given me much more respect for him. But covering his music and like doing the breakdowns, it's hard not to get a little bit of appreciation for an artist when you pick apart their music a little bit and you see what's kind of going on there. There's certainly artists that I've looked at, when I look at their music, it makes me like them less. That's definitely happened. And I don't think that that's the case for MGK on as a whole when it comes to the songs in this album. So I really appreciate that. And I want to give him some props. So cool. Well, that's all I've got. Leave a like, subscribe to all that jazz, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace.